Would you like to get access to exclusive content as well as being part of a community of like-minded people posting, sharing, and connecting on a deeper level? Come join the Inspired community on Locals, where we share more intimately and privately and do our coffee and truth live streams as well as our Honey Talks show, the only inspired show with Christine Nolan. The Inspired community is absolutely uncensored and unfiltered, a place for truth, authenticity, and freedom. Join us now at inspired.locals.com or click on a link in the video description. Hey, Inspired Tribe, my fellow freedom lovers, it's John Nolan here. Thank you so much for tuning in to an Inspired live stream. Inspired Tribe, we're healthy, we're wealthy, we're whole, we're free. You know the mantra of the Inspired live stream? It's been like that for a very long time. That is the affirmation. That is what we are affirming and envisioning and speaking into existence. I want to welcome everyone in the live chat. Good and wonderful friends that we see, wonderful tribesters that have been with us for a very long time. Always great to see those names in the live chat. By the way, this just happened. I wanted to let you know YouTube, for the time being, kicked us out of their partner program. We're working on that, but this is just, things that we usually don't talk about. The things that happen in the background while we do this work are sometimes, well, let's say very, very strange, not unexpected, but strange. But at any rate, for those who wish to support us in our work, become a supporter in the Inspired community and Locals. We do exclusive live streams there, stuff that we don't do anywhere else. We really appreciate your support there. So if you feel like supporting us, just hop over. Links in the description. Let me jump into today's topic. And that is one that we recently discussed for the third time on our channel with Dane Wigington of geoengineeringwatch.org. He speaks very candidly, very openly about his take on what the mainstream calls climate change and about his take on the engineering part of things. That's not too much of what I want to go into today. I want to go into a different perspective, and one that I, as part of the human family and as an observer of the whole discussion, I am consistently trying to figure out a way to bring this discussion into the mix. The thing that I see is that we have been conditioned to look at our connection, our interaction with the natural world, with the environment, through the lens of a very, very narrow description, and that is called now climate or climate change. Basically, those are the only words that people use anymore when they talk about the environment, pollution, when they talk about geological changes. And I think it was a brilliant PR move, but it absolutely distracts from the real picture. And the problem is also that, politically speaking, it's such a politicized debate, and both sides of the aisle, if you will, if you consider this the only options in the political arena, by the way, the left and right have it both wrong. And here's where the frustration kicks in. I observed the left-driven narrative, which has been there for so long, which has gone from global cooling to global warming to all the things. It is focusing and zeroing in on basically, fundamentally, one factor, which is CO2. That's the huge debate, right? And their solutions are all driven in that direction. Now, there are a lot of scientists that have a different perspective on this, and probably rightfully so, because the science as presented and as incomplete as it is doesn't really add up. Also, the suggested solutions are basically a return to a ruling elite and peasant-like state. These are their ideas. Their ideas are, as it would appear through their documents, agendas, and their various, government influence that they have, is that the vast majority of the population is taking one course of action, while the self-proclaimed elite is taking a completely different course of action. The screaming hypocrisy, you can see that is when you listen to people like John Kerry, one of the climate czars, when he was questioned multiple times about, you're suggesting all these things, you're literally flying your private jet around the world and tell others to curb their emissions. How does that up? And he said, well, for a person like me, it wouldn't be feasible to travel any other way. I can't do my help without using my private jet, and basically not saying this out loud, but the truth is having the million times more emissions than any other person. So, but let's leave that aside. So the narrative of the left is very much driven into CO2, and their solutions are electric cars and a digitization of everything. So basically, the Internet of Things. Now, this is not just the left solution. This is also the uniparty solution. But the problem is that the political right and its voters have seen through the holes of that narrative, but the conclusion they've come to is there's really not much wrong here. There's not much we need to do. Really, it's all good. We can just continue to burn oil and gas. We can just continue to produce more of these engines to curb up industry, do more of that. It's all not a big deal. And that's just as false and just as flawed and just as fatal as the other narrative. And I wish, my desire is, through looking at truthful, not just truthful information, but also common sense, to bring this back to where it needs to be. We need to take responsibility for our actions and how we've been duped. Now, the truth is that so much of the destruction in nature, of the pollution that has happened, didn't have to happen. We would have had other solutions, but there was an agenda. I always say this, there was an agenda to bring about a certain kind of industrial revolution, the one that we've seen. The truth of the matter, however, is if you really want to find out what the state of our natural world is, and for those who've been around a little longer, I mean, I just compare what I see now to what I saw when I was growing up. And so many of the things are horrifically different. It's hard for us, for example, to find a body of water, a lake, a stream, a river that is even remotely clean. Now, you can't tell me, no matter what political party you subscribe to, or if you don't subscribe at all, you can't tell me that you don't see the connection between the pollution of water and our own declining quality of life and the declining health of the earth itself. These things need to come back to common sense, because the truth is that neither side wants to accept what really is required of us. You don't have to even look into the flawed debates of climate change to realize these things, which, of course, don't get me wrong, I could go on and on and on about the cyclical nature of things. I could go on and on and on about previous ice ages, tropical ages. I could go on and on about sun activity, solar activity. There are so many things to consider here. But that's not what I mean. I'm not talking about preventing the natural evolution of things or the natural cycle of things. Everything in nature works in cycles. Hence, I don't think that we truly can prevent a cycle from happening. But I do think that we can kill ourselves in the process and eradicate the human family and many other species from the earth through our behavior. And it is, to a large degree, our behavior and our transfer of responsibility that does these things. When you go and you clear cut tens of thousands of acres of trees, or millions of acres of trees, and you later replant trees, you've not fixed the problem, because you have removed ecosystems. You have removed a whole plethora of species that have harmoniously and symbiotically existed in those acreage of woods. And why do we do this? Because we need to get to the root of things. And people say, well, We can't just stop doing what we do. The economy would collapse. And I think this is where we get to the crux of this whole thing. So many of the things that you and I and most people do every day, or the practices or the basic fundamental ways of life that we have, make no sense. They don't even make sense to us. But we do it because we're part of an economic cycle. We do it because, yes, we need to survive. We need to pay our bills. We need to make the money, right? I mean, there's no disputing that in today's society that is a necessity. I'm not disputing that. What I'm saying is that we are fundamentally basing our very important life decisions and ways of life around an artificial system. And it's so ingrained that people believe it's natural, but the economic system is not natural. It's a man-made system. And this man-made system does not serve the earth. It doesn't serve the species on earth. It surely doesn't serve the human family, really, if you look at it. It serves one thing, and that is profit. And it perpetuates the idea that you can infinitely grow that profit when nothing on this earth grows infinitely. Everything is finite and part of a cycle. But because the economic system is at the center of every decision-making process, literally change cannot truly happen. And this is where we need to start rethinking. I've been just walking with the sheer explosion of inventions of new products over the last 2 decades, just the last 2 decades. Where does all the need for all these new products come from? New inventions. People say how creative the human family has become and how many great products we produce. But why are we producing these products? I would venture and say that 99% of the products that we see being invented and produced are produced to solve problems that other products that were invented before are causing. So we're in a vicious cycle here where we're constantly treating symptoms, and we're saying, oh, well, this is a problem now. Like people are having in neighborhoods, in every suburban neighborhood of America, people are using all kinds of chemicals and pesticides and products to treat their homes, to treat their gardens, to treat their lawns for bugs and fleas and ticks. And why? Why? Is this really the natural way of life? No, it is because we have clear cut everything. We built a neighborhood. We have absolutely removed the natural cycle ecology and balance of that particular area. And now we're trying to fix it by using one poison to mask for the damage we've done before. And if we're not getting honest really here and really becoming honest with ourselves, because it's each and every one of us that needs to look in the mirror and think and feel of how we can change our ways, because it will not be solved by any of the current suggested solutions. And I'm not talking about climate change. I'm not talking about huge cyclical change. I'm talking about sickness, depression, pollution, obesity. All of these are side effects of a destructive way of life that we are living. And we're destroying ourselves, we're destroying our home, we're destroying our nature, and we're doing it, so many of those things we're doing subconsciously. And it's not a political debate. See, if I would subscribe to any particular political stream, it would probably be more like the libertarian stream of things, which calls for a true free market. Seems to contradict what I just said, or calls for true capitalism, seems to contradict what I just said. I venture to say that we would actually see some of the best, most innovative, and really good solutions if we really had a free market. Because right now we have the pretense of free markets in all areas that are really controlled by the most wealthy corporations that create quasi monopolies by having such influence on a political process that they favor their products, they favor their services by law, and make it very, very hard, if not impossible, for other solutions to come up. But the solutions are really starting with us and with ourselves, and we need to educate ourselves. We need to ask ourselves, why are we doing the things that we're doing? If you come back to that thing that everybody knows, people are spraying their lawns with all kinds of poisons. The people that are spraying are using masks and they're using hazmat suits. And then half an hour later, toddlers and puppies are playing on that lawn. What do you think that will do to their immune system? What do you think that will do to the earth, to the water, as the poison sinks into the soil and the water? And these are so many things that we're doing every single day that are just uh, trying to fix symptoms of a completely wrong way of life. And it sounds like a monumental task, but we have to realize that some of the things that these great resetters and these very, very psychopathic elites, self-proclaimed elites, are calling for, they have taken those solutions straight from the positive, the good playbook and turned them into their own dystopian nightmare. But it's not wrong. It's not wrong. If we were to continue this trend that we've been on for the past 100 years, and if you look at how much we've grown in our actions, in our pollution and everything over just 100 years, if you continue that trend over the next 100 years, there's no chance we make it for another 100 years. Think about it. Start your car in your garage. Keep it closed. You know what will happen in 15 minutes. You're dead. Carbon monoxide will fill the room. You will die. It will start filling the house. Everybody in the house will die. We can't dispute these truths just because we don't believe in electric vehicles, just because we don't believe in the Green New Deal and see what it is supposed to do, just because we understand what the Agenda 2030 is really supposed to do. We cannot reject the truth that we have been mistreating our beautiful earth, our beautiful natural realm, that we have been mistreating each other and using each other to survive in this economic circle and not kept any balance any longer. Again, why do you think we have one dollar store after the other? So that the more and more stores are opening up with cheap, plastic, useless products. Why? There's only one reason. I've explained this before. In an economic cycle, the way it works in a debt-based system, that what we have is a debt-based fiat system. So because all the money in circulation is credit, it's debt. And over time, the interest rates grow exponentially. That's why the economy needs to continually grow so everybody can repay the interest and the debt. When the economy doesn't grow any longer, this system collapses. How do you make the economy grow over when you're so saturated with the necessity products? You need to create useless, cheap products. So then you ship a dollar product made from the most dirty plastic, made with absolutely no safety rules and anything in place. You make them in cheap factories in China. You ship them halfway across the world over the ocean with engines that burn the dirtiest oil, and then you sell them here at mass quantity, and you continue that over and over again. Then they get disposed after a month because they don't work anymore, and they land somewhere, and we see our waters filled with that. We see our landfills filled with that. We have to understand that we are the ones who need to start solving those problems. And it can only happen when we reintegrate ourselves into nature and stop seeing ourselves apart from nature, apart from our home, apart from the water and the trees and the animals and the skies and the rocks and the mountains and the streams. We have been conditioned to believe that we are not a part of it. We now believe we are disconnected from it. We don't belong with it. We're apart from it rather than a part of it. And that is the whole crux. If you raise your children in a concrete jungle and you don't take them out into nature and you don't make that their natural habitat, which it is, well, they will believe that white walls and doors are the natural habitat, and grass and trees and bugs are the enemy. It's literally an upside down world. And none of the political parties, because they're always the worst to look for solutions, always in any country where I've ever been, ever observed, to look at the government for solutions or political parties, it's insanity. It's insanity. They have enabled all these problems and contributed to them in the grossest manner and created conditions under which we almost have to act in this reckless way to survive. But the more we learn, the more we connect, the more we are in tune with ourselves and with the spiritual realm, the more we also acknowledge that we're part of this whole cycle here and that we need to change our ways. And I'm not calling for anything like this great reset bullshit where uh, the elite wants to create a sovereign class and a peasant class. And basically, they would still behave just the way they do right now while you do nothing and stay in your house and wait for the next lockdown. That's not what I'm calling for. I'm calling for a spiritual revolution and a revolution of the mind and of the logic and of common sense. We need to get there again. Start thinking for ourselves again. Start reconnecting. There's no way around this. And if I look today from just the natural realm of my quality of life, I compare it to my childhood days, and I compare my childhood to the childhood of the children that are born now and raised, they're being raised now. It's a horrific change. It's a horrific change in just a couple generations, and that's not good. You should be able, if we live true to spirit, if we live true to our destiny, we should be able to walk up to any lake, any stream, any river and drink out of it. And there shouldn't be a reason why why shouldn't we be able to accomplish that? I believe this kind of lifestyle has happened before on Earth, but it's always been the exception, not the rule. I don't think this has been the rule. And we haven't listened to those who have lived in a natural way the longest, the indigenous cultures. Because I'm of European descent. It's been a while since we have had an indigenous intact culture, to a certain extent, but nothing like Native Americans, nothing like Aborigines in Australia, nothing like that. And they've lived in harmony with nature, very much in harmony with nature and many other indigenous people for up until very recently. And we refuse to listen. We refuse to listen. And there's only one reason why we refuse to listen. It's because of the almighty dollar or the almighty euro. That's the only reason why we refuse to listen, because our spirit knows they're speaking the truth. Our spirit knows we can't continue pouring chemicals into the water and survive. Our spirit knows it doesn't make sense to spend 50 minutes or an hour in rush hour one way every day in horrific pollution, 6-way interstate, and day after day after day this is happening. Electric cars are not. How much mining and pollution do you think it takes to produce an electric car? How much pollution, how much mining, how much stupidity it takes to produce the electricity with our current means, because better technologies have been suppressed for a reason, continue to be. We have some growing up to do. We need to put on the big boy pants and the big girl skirts or pants or whatever you want to put on and own this change and not look at a political program that will not work. I'm heavily opposed to all their suggestions because they're all in one way just perpetuating a narrative that is wrong. All right. I think I've been on this soapbox for a while here. This, I see. Okay, I'll give you an example before I get off here. I'll give you an example of how disconnected this all is and how disconnected most people are. There's a lady that lives close by, and every year, on multiple occasions, she has her I think already it's a Monsanto lawn, but she has her Monsanto lawn sprayed for bugs and ticks and weeds and whatnot every year, at least twice or three times. She's probably in her 60s. And I won't lie to you, she looks like death itself. She can't go out into the sun without being fully covered. There's no life force in her. She can barely walk or move or think for that matter. And she thinks she's doing a great things by having her lawn sprayed 2-3 times a year. She's very sick in many ways, has told us as much, and is, according to her own words, taking all kinds of medications. This is the epitome of what we're doing as society on Earth. She makes no connection between the behavior of spraying that lawn and naturally consuming those chemicals one way or another, and her physical condition. And we're the same. On a big scale speaking, we're sick, we're obese, we're depressed, we are infertile, and we don't make those connections. We somehow don't realize that our lifestyles are creating that. And if they make us sick, what makes you think our lifestyles don't make the world sick, the earth sick? They do, in so many ways. And if you can either be a climate denier or you can be a climate changer. Those are the only options in the mainstream, and both are bullshit because they're not actually addressing the real problems. The real problems. We shouldn't produce things that we need to put a skull on and a poison sign. It's as simple as that. We simply shouldn't. And we've gone for God knows how long, eons, without doing that. And that's a thing, like with everything else, that's based in personal responsibility and self-reliance. Yes, I did not create the system, but is my behavior perpetuating it? Yes, in many ways, of course. So I need to look in the mirror and find out what I can do, how I can become the change that I want to see. And if we seriously think that simply removing these entities that are perpetuating this dystopian future nightmare will solve the problem, we have another thing coming. Because to a certain extent, we are the problem. Not our existence, but our behaviors. And I've often said this. For example, I love this land. I love America. I love this beautiful land. I love the natural beauty. I love the spirit. There's a spirit of freedom here, unlike anywhere else I've been. I've been in quite a few places in the world. I've never felt the spirit of freedom as much as I felt it here. And I think that is something worth defending. But our lifestyle is not worth defending. It's not worth defending. It doesn't make sense. We build houses that are shoeboxes at best in a climate that is extremely hot in the summer. What does that mean? Unless you have the AC running 24/7, and how does the AC run? With power. How do you produce that power? The way we produce it currently, it's a vicious cycle. No, but we're not thinking about changing the way we build houses, making them of more natural materials that are known to insulate, that have been used in other places of the world for centuries, that don't require a constant conditioning. No, we don't do that. Why? Profit. The almighty dollar is the only reason. Build as cheap as possible, sell as high as possible. And as long as that is the imperative, as long as that is what drives every decision in our lives, that's exactly how it's going to be. That's exactly how it's going to be. And we are now at a tipping point in both directions. Those who take the positive path, it's a tipping point. It's becoming exponentially better. Those who go with the narrative, with the mainstream, it's becoming increasingly worse, health-wise, financially, on all levels. I know we can't push the stop button on a dime and all just seize everything and change everything on a dime. I know that. And I know that we too are part of this cycle in ways. But we have to begin somewhere. And we have to make those changes incrementally. And we have to do what we can with what we have right now. It's just like when you start growing your own food or growing a garden. So many people have said, I can't do it because I don't have land. I don't have this. Maybe you have a corner in your closet where you can start with hydroponics. Maybe you have a small little space on your patio or balcony. Maybe there's another solution to get started. Maybe you have a joint, you can go in with someone else, or someone else has a backyard they're not using for that. There are always ways, but we need to start with what we have and what we can in this moment, even if it's just a small step. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with the first small steps. But here, last, not least, as always, bring it back. Bring back that responsibility. If each and every one of us was aware that we all share equally this responsibility for the health and the beauty and the balance of our beautiful home, this earth, we would all behave differently. We would all behave differently. And I think that's what it requires. I don't buy into any of the public political debates. They're all bullshit. None of them wants to change. And that's what you really need to look at. None of them wants to change their behavior. They haven't. Any of the senators, they're dinosaurs. They've been in there for 40, 50 years. They've had the same behavior for 50 years. Now they buy CO2 certificates and trade them, make money off of them. That's all they do. You think they stop flying their jets or stop taking the invitations by the billionaires? Do you think they stop doing any of that shit? No. They're just selling a new product to the gullible. We need to take this into our own hands, and I believe in that. I honestly believe in the beautiful community that's out there of people that are willing to man up and woman up and make those changes incrementally in their own lives. So many of you have also, on a positive side, written us and said you got inspired by our guests and what they're doing, what they're sharing. You have started doing things differently, not just on a personal, not just in practices, spiritual practices, which is equally important, but also in terms of how you interact with nature, how you live your life, growing your own food, growing a garden, all those things. It's highly positive and inspiring to us. So thank you for that. Thank you for sharing. I hope this was a little bit of a nudge to think about these things differently, because I know so many are oftentimes getting involved in these political debates, but our home, our earth, it's not a political debate. It's who we are. It's what we're inherently connected with. We need to do this. All right. Thank you for tuning in. Also, once again, thank you for your support in the Inspired Community on Locals. The link is in the video description. If you wish to continue supporting our work, please do so. Become a supporter there for either $5 a month or $50 a year. It's discounted. And enjoy the Coffee and Truth live streams. Enjoy the Honey Talks and the other exclusive things we do on Locals, uncensored, unfiltered. Much love, many blessings. I'll talk to you soon.